Good evening, everyone. This is the Finance Committee. It is January 29th, 2025. It is just about exactly 5 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over Channel 8 and through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. And the first item on the agenda is the minutes of January 22nd, 2025. But right before we start that, I would like to thank everybody because this is not our normal day for meeting. And this is the second week that we have had to change our schedule because of one thing or another. So I just want to again thank all of you for reorganizing your weeks and being available for the meeting today. The minutes of January 22nd were done by Mira. Thank you very much, Mira. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 22nd, 2025?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, Roy?
Yes.
And I can second that motion, Mary. It's Kate.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All in favor of minutes? 1, 2, 3, 3 on the Zoom, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0. Okay. We're now going to go to the departmental budget meetings, and the first one is the health and environment, and the pages in the budget are pages 151 through 159. If people want to pull up their.
So just as a
151.
preface, we got our department heads here for each of our departments, Hillary, Melanie, unfortunately, Christine with rec. And I guess I have to go down there.
You got your name, Fred.
Christine with recreation couldn't make it tonight, but she gave me some materials to distribute to you, which I hope you all got, and I'm capable of going it over on her behalf. And same with Council on Aging couldn't make it tonight, but again, we distributed some materials, and we have some representatives from the COA board here that participating and listening in. So I'm sure we'll be able to handle any questions, and that I'll turn it over to Hillary.
Hi, I'm Hillary Greenberg Lemos. I know some of you and some of you I don't. I think this is my second time presenting a budget before you all. So I'm gonna give a brief overview by way of our mission statement that we've been working on and crafting. So our mission is to advance public health by preventing illness and injury, promoting wellness, fostering healthy behaviors and environments. We achieve this through comprehensive research, rigorous inspection, and regulatory functions, sampling, innovative policy development, disease investigation, surveillance, dedicated advocacy, and impactful education. Our commitment is to create a healthier, safer community and environment. It's a lot of words. And essentially, we do a lot of regulatory work. We set policy with the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission. We do inspections of a number of different establishments throughout town. We do monitoring and sampling of ponds, waterways, landfills, you name it. So we do wastewater, we do drinking water, and communicable disease. I can answer any questions about what we do if you have them before I move on to our staffing setup.
Can you see if they raise their, yeah, okay.
Okay. So the budget this year does show 2 employees that were moved over from community development. So we have Alexander Bates, the conservation agent, and Amy Blakesley that were moved into our budget. We have Sam Poyant, who's our new administrative assistant. We have Susan Barker as the health agent, Richard Scally as our part-time housing inspector, and myself.
I have a question
Yeah.
on the, I'm Mary Shaw.
Nice to meet you.
I have a question on the public health nurse. Is that something that is associated with the police and the fire?
So
No, in this budget, what you see is our contract with the VNA.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's separate. We do have a community nurse that we're sharing through an ARPA grant that gets dispatched when a referral comes in for her, and that position is shared with the 4 Outer Cape towns.
And how's that working?
So it's actually working really well. They gave a presentation, the mental health clinician and the RN gave a presentation at our last Board of Health meeting. So they talked about the number of clients they've seen, and it is a steady flow of folks. And I think they are making an impact for those folks that can't get to a doctor and can't get to a medical facility.
I'm just wondering because the urgent care place in Orleans isn't open at this time of the year.
Correct.
So I'm just wondering whether that's.
So they're not so much seeing, well, the RN is not so much seeing people that aren't feeling well. If they have a bronchial infection or they're experiencing some type of respiratory illness, they're more dealing with folks with day-to-day ailments that need help following up on medications or working with families to understand what a diagnosis is. And they can treat wounds and stuff out in people's homes. So they haven't seen a lot of calls for, I guess what you want to say are all of these illnesses that are going around. There's a lot out there right now.
Maybe Rich should have called them.
We would have had to have made a referral for him.
What percentage of the time currently are you spending on the wastewater? And if you're looking ahead over the next 12 months, what do you think?
So that's a tough question because I imagine you're thinking large wastewater, but we also do small wastewater. So-
Would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, I'm
Whoever
sorry.
asked it didn't have a.
Does everybody have
microphone.
their on? Yeah,
Thank you.
push the right side
Sorry
down.
about that. How's that, Kate?
That, now we can hear you. Thank you.
This is what curiosity. There's a curiosity question as far as Hillary's time that she's allocating past and future as far as the wastewater project that's coming up. I guess the question I'm getting at too is your involvement in all the other.
Yeah, I don't know that I can give you a specific breakdown of time, but every day is consumed by wastewater, at least some portion of the day. So I don't know, these jobs are kind of interesting because certain things come in that take priority, and then you have your background projects that you work on while, there's downtime and nobody's yelling and screaming and no complaints are coming in. So it totally depends, but every day has some bit of touch upon wastewater, whether it's a septic system, someone with a question, a project development, or collection and treatment.
So going forward, you plenty of time.
I mean, plenty of time is, I guess it comes down to time management, really, but I am okay right now.
I have another question on the PFAS testing. There's a new DEP requirement this year. What does that entail? And as far as people and time?
So we're in it right now. I guess it was in the late summer, we sampled the wells around the landfill and we did find some PFAS in there, which then set us on a course to sample more wells further out. You develop a radius around the impacted well. So we have documentation filed with DEP at their request, and we are investigating private wells right now that are set back a particular distance from the impacted wells. And we've had a few, 2 at the moment that are above the imminent hazard level. One has agreed to connect to the water system, which was a long time coming, so that's really exciting. And the other one, we're still working with them to figure out a solution. And then we work with DEP to then set an additional radius and discuss groundwater flow and which wells we think are being contaminated from the landfill. And we actually don't have that many. So we're very fortunate to have the water system, which, most folks have hooked up to. So I don't think the problem is huge, but it is an ongoing expense. And It is in the
Good-
budget
yeah, I was gonna
line.
say it's a good segue. That's on page 158. It was an addition for this year in Hillary's budget. At the top of that page. Landfill monitoring and testing, there's the annual kind of normal stuff, which is
Yep.
down to 29,000. But we have this new contract for new PFAS monitoring at
Mhm.
35,000.
So it's an annual contract, so that means that every year you have to,
We have to continue to test.
no, as far as I'm thinking of the cost.
Oh, the cost, I think, when I spoke with our contractor from last year to this year, they said there was a 5% increase in cost is what they were budgeting for.
Mhm. Okay. You can't get a contract for more than, well, maybe it doesn't make sense for more than 1 year. I'm just wondering.
We talked about a global contract and it seemed like we wanted to lock in for a year because, we don't know what the results will be.
Mhm.
And if we can manage to get the properties now connected to
You
the
might not
municipal
need
water
an-
system, then we might not
Might not
need
need
to.
another contract, yeah.
Right, and we make
depending-
the case of which way groundwater is flowing and what the impacts are and are not, because there's PFAS in other locations not coming from the
Right,
landfill.
right.
So,
Yeah, yeah. I have a health question. There are some houses in town that I consider totally unacceptable as far as trash around their houses. If I was living next to one of those houses, I would be really upset if I was trying to sell my house.
mhm.
There's got to be animals and all sorts of other things in that space. What can the town do to alleviate that situation? I mean, this seems to me that something needs to be done.
So we do have nuisance law under public health domain. And I would say, call the office, make a complaint, and we'll go out and inspect. We go out, we inspect, we send letters, we order cleanups. This happens pretty regularly. It's one of our biggest complaints that comes in is trash.
But what is, I mean, obviously the one I'm thinking of has been like this for a long time. Nothing seems to improve. Why? Nothing?
Is it possible that we have not received a complaint on it, or we might not know about it? I don't know the location.
This is not a question, this has become a very specific question, Mary.
Mhm.
And that property, we've gone all the way to Superior Court and back on, so that we don't really have a recourse for right now. And there's no active trash. It's
Okay.
more junk.
Okay. I mean, we've got junkyard. There's all kind, I guess I'm not familiar with the particular property. Yeah,
Mm. Okay, it,
sorry.
if I was living next to that house and I was interested in selling my house, I would really be upset. It's an absolute,
Even if you weren't interested in selling.
no, if you weren't interested, if you had to live next to it and look at it out your windows, it's disgusting. To be honest, I don't understand why something can't be done about it, but that's me.
Mary, may I ask a question that sort of dovetails off of that?
Oh, hi, Jerry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Kate? Yep.
Yeah. My question is around homes that people are occupying that are quite dangerous to get in and out of. Is there any recourse with supporting and helping the occupants of those homes in terms of safety and is there anything that can be done?
Are you talking about vehicular access in and out, or like broken stairways and
Yeah,
lights
I'm
out?
talking about homes that need some upkeep that perhaps the owner has maybe is not financially able to do it. And I'm talking about steps and doors and porches and things like that.
Yeah, there are a number of programs on the Outer Cape that do help homeowners make repairs and modifications to their dwellings. So we could certainly get a list of those together.
Great.
And I'd
Like
say as far
grants
as
and
the
stuff like- Sorry.
health and environment, currently that type of thing isn't within their budget.
Okay.
But we will be talking about community services, and I do have a little bit of a spiel with that, that we've been talking with the select board over some time, and some future considerations. But I'd say, us funding those programs, like there's a housing rehab program run by Tri, which is a very popular program. So chances are we wouldn't be incorporating things like that into our budgets, especially our operating budgets. But perhaps a coordination of services is an area where we could help.
Okay,
And that would
thank
be
you.
something we can talk about under community services.
Hey, Mary, this is Jerry. I have a little bit of an off-the-wall question, if you would accept it. One of the things we've heard is that there is now at least some kind of push to get a change from the legislature to allow our first responders, our EMTs, or ambulances, to not have to always go to Hyannis to the hospital, but to allow them to go to urgent care centers, which would be closer than going all the way to Hyannis. And I was just wondering if Hillary had any thoughts of whether that's a good thing, something that we as Eastham should be looking at. I mean, I'll also ask Lisa about this when we get the fire department up, but does that make any sense from your view on a health standpoint?
Well, yes, of course it makes sense, but I would certainly defer to Lisa as well because she is in charge of that. But I mean, the shorter distance these folks travel, the better. They get help quicker, and
Costs
our
less.
emergency personnel are not out of town for as long. I guess it depends on the patient and what they need.
Right.
So I think perhaps bounce that off of Lisa for sure.
I will do that. Thank you. It's just, it makes some fiscal sense, but we have to rely on the EMT's judgment, I guess, on that.
Yeah.
But thanks.
Of course.
Are there any other questions?
I have a question, Mary.
Yeah, Roy?
Okay, just in terms of operating expenses, going from fiscal year 25, the current year, to fiscal year 26, there's a big increase, 78,000 to 98,000. Is that due because of testing and monitoring?
Mhm.
Is that what
That's
kicks that up?
Yes.
Yeah, that's from the regulatory requirements from Mass DEP on the PFAS testing. And if you look at the budget, we decreased the routine testing because we've worked closely with them over time to be able to decrease some of the other parameters. But with that decrease came the addition of the PFAS.
Okay.
And the only other comment I would have on the budget, not to speak for Hillary, but we have talked about under, on page 159, under other charges, under special programs. There's some things she wants to do there, and testing and some wastewater work. And so there will be an article, a free cash request in Article 4 this year for additional wastewater work. But it was kind of, at this point, a one-time thing, and we've got an ongoing wastewater project, so we're keeping it there as opposed to bringing it into the operating budget. But as that matures, you might see some, over time, some of that stuff come into the operating budget.
Are there any other questions? I want to thank you very much for coming and enlightening us on what you do every day.
Thank you for having me. Stop in and see me. I'm happy to answer any questions.
If I need the nurse, what number do I call?
Well, if you need the nurse, you're gonna need a referral, so
Oh,
you could go
oh,
through me,
oh.
you could go through Rich, you could go through Chad. Very special.
A very special nurse. Okay, I'm looking at the the agenda. And the community services, which is on 162 to 164, is really just a compilation of the departments that are coming up. Did anybody have any questions in particular on 162 through 164 before we go on to the Council on Aging?
Yeah, just, if I could, Mary, I just want to preface that this is a little bit of a, I don't know if strategy is the right word or not, but, the concept of consolidating under a community services department.
Mhm.
Each division or each department is kind of independent of itself, but trying to get people, these departments to work together because there's a lot of interactions between them. A lot of programs that the library does, the COA can take advantage of, and vice versa. And of course, recreation is pervasive through each of them.
Mhm.
And then in addition, this idea of our human service program as being a community service function and having some more hands-on direction related to that budget kind of all makes sense, but this is evolving over since last year and into this year, and then will continue to evolve. So eventually, you might see these departments kind of merge up into the higher level and have someone that's under a community services director type of thing. Right now, we do have a community services director, but Christine's still in the rec department heavily, so it's still continue to show that way. But just an overall, you know, indication of how we think, how we see this heading over time and consolidating these and trying to get some centralized management and direction to all these programs.
When did the Council on Aging become called the senior services? I've never seen that term before.
There's actually a long history of this. The Council on Aging is a state-created statute that creates an advisory board called the Council on Aging. So we moved to senior services quite a few years ago because basically it describes the service a little bit more than Council on Aging. I mean, who knows what that means? No one ever has. So, so it's been senior services and in some communities now it's adult community services.
Oh. I've just, even last year, it was called the Council on Aging, so,
I know, but it's the senior services budget.
yeah.
Jackie's too young to know what council on aging, what on aging means, that's all.
Jerry and I have been at several of the exercise classes lately.
No, I understand what Council on Aging is.
Okay, we are down to the senior services, which is pages 167 to 171, if people want to get that in order here. And we did get, Rich sent out sort of late this afternoon, a statement from Dorothy Burt for the Council on Aging, and also one for the Recreation Department. So Rich said he would make some extra copies if people would like, if they didn't see it, because they were busy with other things.
Does anybody need a copy or what?
Steve?
And basically, if I may, the operation budget for senior services, or previously known as the Council on Aging or the Senior Center, includes mostly staffing and supplies. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but 100% of the programming that's done at the COA is paid for by their Friends group. So the town actually doesn't contribute a lot of money to pay for actual programs, nor do our seniors have to pay for programs because of that generous contribution every year. So what you're looking at is just the staff that we have and some discrete supplies and equipment for the COA, and then they'd have also a capital budget and be covered under our maintenance services in that other budget as well for this senior center.
And one of the things I tried to do, I didn't get the information in time to put in here, so you see a couple X's, little blanks in here in a couple spots. But Dorothy did put it in her memo that's in here. So to kind of talk about what Jackie's saying is, in FY '24, the Friends of the Council on Aging gave almost $58,000 in program support, and they're planning on doing about $80,000 the next 2 fiscal years. So there's a significant amount of outside contribution and support that's not reflected in that otherwise would have to be in the budget if we want to keep up that level of effort.
Just like the library. I mean, the library has.
Expenses aren't in this budget.
Nope. They never have been because we don't appropriate the money.
Okay.
If you want to undertake an activity, then they go to the COA board or the Friends group, I should say, and ask them to underwrite that activity. What is in the budget, though, is the staffing. And so on the first page here, you see our 4 full-time staff members and a part-time activities assistant. There is some additional staffing, and I'd like to work that into the budget just for disclosure purposes in the future. We just have to see if it's even going to continue, so that's why I didn't put it in at this time. But Dorothy's been successful in getting some grants, so we'd have a hybrid program coordinator, coordinators, I guess, a couple of them, and do some programming for through a grant. And a lot of our transportation folks are funded through a grant program. And so over time, I'd like to add all that information here so you get a full picture of what the operating budget supports and what we rely on grants or contributions for. But Dorothy's addressed some of that in her memo as well. There's no big change, no changes in staffing, just the contractual rates and raises for each of these staff people. Under the expense detail, we did go up, if I just go to the bottom line real quick, just so you can see the numbers. In FY, this is page 171. Dorothy and the COA board made a compelling case a couple years ago to have some increases for a number of reasons. So you see the total expense budget went from 53.8 to 74.8 last year. We could accommodate that increases, but given our tight circumstances this year, they were able to hold that level. So no change in the expense accounts from last year to this year, and plan to be spent substantially the same basis. I don't think there's any changes in any of the sub lines within this budget.
Rich,
Yes.
what was the reason for the increase from 53,000 to 74?
A lot of it was printing and newsletter and communication type. And then there was also
Rest was food.
some food and programming. And also they had a new cost for My Senior Center became an annual license fee.
Yeah. Could you explain that to me exactly?
It's a software program that monitors use of the building. So you check in,
Mm.
right? And if you're taking a program, you check into that program. So it does registration and it keeps track of who's doing what. So it gives the senior center basically the numbers needed to fill out that grant application that
yeah.
we get every year that pays for transportation services.
And the reason for that is I've explained a couple times, especially under the IT budget. Everything's an annual license now. You can't just buy the software and sit on it for 10 years. You have to pay the annual
Yeah.
amount.
So it says it's $1,200 a year, at least that's what it's showing on here for that license.
Right. Dorothy did a really good job in her memo, kind of, one of the 3 questions I asked everybody to be prepared to answer when they came in front of you is, be able to explain what you do, how you do it, the staff and vendors, and explain any big changes of which there aren't any. And then also talk about challenges. So Dorothy's put down here some challenges. Eastham has a very high percentage of elderly population, so it's an important service and department for the town. And there are things that they want to improve on. So as we move forward in the budget in future years, she has some things that we have to consider for potential additions. Got to weigh that with other things that are need to be done too, to see what we can accommodate and what we can't, and prioritize those. But staff, anything that's a new staff member, we have to weigh that really heavily. Transportation and especially coordination has been a big issue for all the council on agings on the Cape, never mind the outer Cape. But as far as building updates and renovations, we do have a capital plan for the senior center building specifically, as I've kind of talked to you about. And will be impossible to do all the updates that need to be done in any one year. So we kind of are prioritizing the individual projects. And I think the big ones on the slate for the upcoming year have to do with parking lot and sidewalks and accessibility issues and safety issues. So we do have a list to address building updates and maintenance that Dorothy, myself, and facilities manager have all reviewed. So if we get the money to do those things, then we'll be executing that plan.
There's a line in here for building maintenance in the budget.
That's just general
It's little.
building
Yeah.
supplies and maintenance. Significant maintenance we're talking about is coming out of the capital budget.
Right.
And I think we have I think we put in, is it 120, 100, either 100 or $120,000 a year,
Yeah.
plus some supplemental money to do some catch-up. We had done a lot of work on deferred maintenance for town buildings over the last several years, but we hadn't done a lot with the COA building because we were, we weren't sure exactly where that was going to be with tea time and all that stuff. But, as we hear today, that building's probably going to be there for a number of years, and so we need to take care of it. And so that capital budget line item will hopefully accommodate those things.
What's the story on the thrift shop with the Massasoit Road building in the process? Well, I'm expecting to see something at the Community Preservation Committee on that for our meeting next week. I'm assuming that they're not going to be able to stay there. I don't know what's happening because
Well, we're not moving forward with anything right now, so nothing is happening
Mm.
there in that location, but we have met with them several times. And we do have a plan for when any renovation does occur, that they will move most likely to Town Center Plaza, to that vacant space there, which I think.
the old bike shop.
Yeah, which I think will be an exceptionally good temporary home for them. And then they can move back once the renovation is done, or whatever they want to do. But I think that'll be a decent plan, and we've worked out some of the details. The flooring is the last thing to go in. It does have heat now, so we're moving forward with that plan. We'll be ready.
I'm just wondering about fixing the current building with the understanding that we're hoping that something else will occur down the road with the tea time situation as far as a community center is concerned. And that the building, I will say I'm there frequently with for one reason or another. And I know when we did the ADA review, it got one of the worst reports of all the town buildings in town. And I will.
Understandably, because
oh,
it's
it's
an
terrible.
antique building.
Oh, well, I know it's terrible.
I
And
don't think it's terrible. It's
well,
really
for
quite.
ADA, for people that have walkers and things of that nature, it's terrible.
Mhm.
And so I'm just trying to figure out how you spend money on that if you're going to get something better down the road, hopefully,
Oh,
with the tea time situation.
well, we have never talked about moving the thrift shop to tea time, ever.
Oh, I'm not talking about the thrift shop. I'm talking about the Council on Aging.
Oh, okay. Well, we've definitely talked about that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know it.
But I don't think, I honestly think that we've addressed some of those handicapped issues over the past, couple of years. The site is not ideal
It's
for
terrible.
people, but it's never been ideal.
Oh, I know.
And so I think we're working with what we have for now with a plan that, we're going to get a more modern center at some time in the future, but we
Mhm.
have to pace these things because of course you're the finance committee and you understand why we have to pace some of these expenses, and wastewater's coming
Oh,
first.
I know wastewater, but we need wastewater to do town center.
Right,
and to
so
do
it's all
tea time.
connected but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the thrift
No,
shop.
no.
Well, that's why I think you see in the capital budget, there's a significant amount of free cash going to the senior center to handle,
Yeah.
the cracked sidewalks, the cracked pavement, handrails, some of the, so some are big ticket items, some are much smaller items that can be handled. It was a matter of focus and getting our facilities shop, prioritizing different town buildings and projects. So I'd say the senior center's turn is definitely up.
Yep.
And we're going to be there for a number of years yet
Mhm.
before anything happens at tea time. So we got to take care of it between now and then.
I have to say that, as I mentioned, I'm there frequently lately for various exercise programs of one kind or another and other things. And I have seen that I think that AD or the UMass review had trying to figure out how to operate and use the library as well as the Council on Aging. And we are now having a program that I went to last Friday, yoga program. And I'm working on trying to work out a better transportation situation where we can perhaps use the transportation from the Council on Aging for some of the programs at the library, which I think is important. So, I think I'm wondering whether some of the classes there have enlarged because they weren't being held at at Willie's. A lot of people that I see at the Council on Aging used to be at Willie's, and they're now at the Council on Aging, so.
I
It's-
don't know. I think I would credit the increase and popularity of programming to about, if I remember correctly, around 3 years ago. So around 3 years ago, the board of the Council on Aging became very, very active. Dorothy, I think, has done a great job responding to those needs. And I think everyone is very proud of the type of activities and the participation. The other new thing, of course, is that hybrid programming, which is going to allow them to come into people's homes that
Right,
can't
right.
come out with those same exercise programs.
Right, yeah.
And it's not just watching it on TV, it's seeing your friends are still there and you're still participating in the activity. And I think, they've done a lot. And I think we've also tried to respond with some fixes and maintenance issues, but I think it's a greatly improved situation over there for programming in every way in the past 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, as I say, it's every time I go that it's filled with people. I mean, I've been there frequently, so,
Yeah, they're very busy now. It's great.
yeah. Are there any, oh, Patty?
Yeah, I have a question on, well, first of all, I heard great things about the group fitness classes and the instructors. I'm a group fitness instructor. When you have a good instructor, you bring in a lot of people. So I think
Exactly.
because it's such great instructors, the word gets out and it brings in a lot of people. So kudos to,
Word of mouth.
yes, word of mouth. Kudos to the instructors. I just have a question on the expanded transportation. It's the last line. And I know it's covered by grant, so it's not in the budget. But it said increased uses by 29% year over year. And are we offering new services or it's just more people using it? Is there any more?
Combination. I think there are some new services. A large percentage of that is medical transportation to doctor's appointments, which is so essential to our area, of course, because we're so far away from things like if you have eye surgery, you have to go back to back, you have to, go to the doctor and then you have to go to the doctor the next day, all that sort of stuff. So managed care has brought a lot of changes to that, but they've also been doing more weekly trips to grocery stores and pharmacies and activities. So hopefully we would like to do, I know the COA would like to do more of that kind of transportation. We've historically focused a lot of our funding on what was essential transportation as opposed to extra, but really getting people out is important. And so they want to do more of everything.
And I also think what you see is just what you're saying, success kind of breeds success.
Yep.
So you get more people in the building doing more stuff, and then they become more aware of what else is offered to them, and now they're starting to, so it just kind of builds on
And
itself.
that's kind of the whole point of activities at the COA.
Yeah, they have the bus to, or wouldn't call it a bus, a van to Market Basket. They have a van to Trader Joe's. They have all sorts of options. Yep. Are there any other questions on the Council on Aging Senior Services?
You guys want to sing?
Yeah, the three of you are here. You're more than welcome to make a comment of one kind or another or ask us a question.
We did our best.
You guys, I thought Rich did a great presentation, Dorothy provided a lot of
Yes, good.
information, so, I don't feel like I have a lot to add aside from that. Yeah, the senior population, especially since COVID here, everybody retired. They're all here. And we're part of the reason we've had to expand so much is because the senior center generally service people in their later 70s, 80s, 90s. And now we're servicing people from 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And every one of those groups requires different programming, right? It's a generalization, I know, but generally the people who are going to sit and fit are not the same people going to HIT classes. So it's a lot of programming in a limited amount of space, which is why we are so thankful to the library that they're letting us use their space. They've been great. And I think the other big expansion, the other big thing to focus on besides the enormous influx of people we've had, is, and the LGBTQ group, which is also very active all of a sudden and working both alone and with Orleans, and have a lot of activities going on. But also, the technology requirements of seniors these days to get on my chart, to make their doctors, all those things, and coming in with phones and iPads and all of that, those positions that Dorothy had, which were part-time funded by grants, those grants are now terminating in March. And so not only does she actually need another person, she's gonna lose the 2 people that she has, unless we find some funding. There's gonna be some creative funding for this year, but what Rich was alluding to about coming back next year and asking for a full-time person, it's very much because our programming is so big and because the technology needs, not just at the center to help with facilitating the hybrid programs and all of that, but to go to people's homes or to have people come in and do classes on my chart, all those things. It's just the reality of the world we live in now. And we didn't, I started teaching technology classes in 2000 in the Provincetown COA. And that was easy stuff. That was people wanted to email and learn recipes and, and now it's a requirement. I mean, you have to have an email address, you have to be able to get online. So, and protect yourself from online.
And to dovetail that, we were able to connect right around the time she got the hybrid grant, we were able to connect the COA to our internet service. So they have a much more robust, because they were having very spotty Comcast business service. So because they're kitty corner to our new well, and we needed to have
Down there.
high-speed internet at the well, it was a perfect segue. So we got them connected, which was good.
You're talking about the.
They should be, the
Oh,
fiber, yeah.
okay. Yeah, no, we're not connected yet. Let's do that.
It's
in
in
the
the
works.
works.
I just want to follow up on the comments too, just and not to beat a dead horse, I guess, but this is why we've presented this budget as a community services budget. Traditionally and statutorily in a lot of regards, the COA as the formal body appointed by the state has certain statutory responsibilities to certain age groups. And recreation, traditionally has been to the younger children. The library kind of appeals to everybody along the path, but it's more of this intergenerational programming that's coordinated. And so, might be individual spots needed in each of the individual departments, whether it's transportation or an additional librarian or a program person for rec. Those might be needed, but what we're looking towards is how do we best coordinate this? So having a community services director or coordinator and making sure all these services are pulled together, because the outreach, the coordination of services, because the Outer Cape has lots of services available to us, and the town offers a lot of services, but we don't always access them appropriately. So that's kind of what we're going for. I'm just trying to build that up over time, and then at the same time, dovetail that in with our human service programs. So we do have, for example, and we'll get to it in the budget in a bit, under human service programs, money allocated for a social worker. Now, social worker might not be the exact thing we end up doing, but the money's there for when we get the solution and can fit in that piece of the puzzle to make this work. So that was our thinking a couple of years ago, the social worker line. Now we got to see if that ends up being how it ends up going.
Just one quick question, related to the Shine program. Is that funded by the Commonwealth? Or is it grants? Or where does that kind of sit in the budget?
I think funded is a very strong word for what they actually provide. I think it's really volunteer driven, trained, very dedicated, trained volunteers, but there is some support from the county and state.
Yeah.
Does Eastham have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Shine representative?
Yes, we do.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Next year, and instead of doing one-on-one
class with people because we weren't able to help everyone who came in. We are going to have classes with groups of people coming in and have them bring their computers or iPad or whatever. And then we'll have a class where we'll have some people going around to help, but have one person teaching and showing people how to do it themselves.
That's a great
So we
idea.
could help 30
Right.
times rather than one,
One.
That's great, Bev. Thank you.
anytime.
Does anybody else have any questions of one kind or another? Okay. On to the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. You're
Thank you
welcome to
all.
stay. This is a very exciting discussion, so you're welcome to stay.
Don't you guys want to stay and hear all this
I'm sorry?
exciting stuff?
Oh,
It's so fun.
Take off.
I'm sorry?
Before we take off, I just wanted to say, and I should have said this when I started talking, my name is Mindy Baranski. I'm
Oh,
the
sorry,
president of
Mindy.
Friends.
Mhm,
I think you all know Bev, who's the chair of the board.
mhm, mhm.
And we work closely with Dorothy now to.
Yep.
The three of us are all who meet a lot.
Thank you for your service.
Mm-mm.
Thanks, Bev. It was good to see you.
You can go home and enjoy your dinner. Okay, so we're on to the agenda and we're on to number 3D, and it's the library, and Melanie McKenzie is here, our director, and I don't know what, you see, what you want to, I do, yeah, you want to use a chair? There's a chair next to Peter here.
There's also microphones
Or,
right there.
yeah, there's a microphone down here, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Hello. Oh, sorry. Hello. I'm
Hi.
Melanie McKenzie. I'm the library director.
And the pages in the book, budget book are 172 to 175.
So I'm here to talk a little bit about the library, what kind of services we offer, how our department is structured. So our mission at the library is to, I meant to have it written down here for you so I could read it for you, but we aim to offer programs and services to meet the varying needs of our community for all ages and populations and interests. So educational needs, entertainment needs, and sort of public interest and health and community and social needs as well. We are a staff comprised of 6 full-time staff and right now 7 part-time staff. And we're able to provide a variety of programs to the community. We have a standing collection of circulating materials. We offer community space to provide these public programs and to allow other community groups to book our spaces. This includes town departments as well, to offer informational programs about town issues as well. And so that's kind of the core of what we offer at the library. The library is a member of the Cape Library Automated Materials Sharing Network, which is 35 member libraries across the Cape and Islands. You can see in our budget that beyond our unclassified circulating materials, the membership fee to the central network is our second largest budget line item. And this allows us to benefit from that sort of centralized coordination. Our library patrons can borrow materials from any of these 38 physical library locations, take out any of those materials, which includes not just books and DVDs and kind of your traditional library materials, but now we have worked to expand. We're offering streaming media as well as circulating library materials, and libraries across the Cape and Islands also circulate what we're calling libraries of things. So we have Wi-Fi hotspots. Some libraries will circulate Chromebooks, sewing machines, metal
Telescopes, we have a
detectors,
telescope.
telescopes. We have a telescope at the library. We have rechargeable battery banks. So we have sort of the full capability to make like a remote office with circulating materials from the library, which is very cool. Yes, sorry. So the central network fees go to allowing our members to access materials from all of those different libraries. And we also benefit from the centralized staff at our network as well, which provides centralized cataloging services, making all of those materials accessible in that centralized database. And we also get support from the centralized staff as well. The unclassified circulating materials, which is our largest budget line item, the amount that we're required to spend on that is a state requirement. So the majority of that is funded by the town every year. It usually covers about 90% of what we are required to expend on circulating materials from the state. We're fortunate to have the Friends of the Library organization, which supplements the other 10% of what we are required to expend on that.
So Melanie, can you explain, do we apply for a waiver each year or because of the municipal and that allows us to get grant funding through the library's Mass Library Commission? So if you could just mention that a little
Yeah,
bit, the
sure.
amount of that funding is.
Yeah, absolutely. So the state requirement, it has an amount that we are required to spend, but it doesn't say where that money necessarily has to come from. So we are able to spend that money from the Friends to supplement what we get from the town, and that allows us to be a certified municipal library, and that makes us eligible for the state grant funding that Rich is talking about. And that really helps support the library for special programs, the additions of special collections, any kind of special project that might come up that we didn't necessarily plan for at the start of the fiscal year.
And that's about 18,000 or so.
It comes in about two payments of between like 8 and 12,000. Yeah. Mhm.
And just so the committee knows, I talk to Melanie about this every year. So we are trying to get that the town contribute 100% of the requirement as opposed to relying on the Friends on an ongoing basis for that line item. So as you may have noticed, the budget is flat in total for the library, but there has been some reallocation. And to the extent there is leftover money, so to speak, it gets added to that materials line to help us get closer, to the 100%. So over some time, hopefully we get there.
So, so what's the 100%? So we're on that books and other circulating materials line?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep,
So 100% is more than the 118?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be another, 12,
100,
13,
yeah.
15,000.
And I'd just like to add that last year, because I've been pushing for this for years. Last year, the budget added 20,000 to our that line item. So we're getting there.
We are getting there. We've been working pretty closely to manage this because it is a moving target. The amount you're required to expend is a percentage of our overall appropriated municipal budget. So it's not simply a matter of, in a given year, allocating an additional amount because that then changes your total allocated amount, which then makes the percentage of what we're required to expend larger. So it's something that we have to work towards continually over a few years.
And I'd just like to add, the state aid doesn't have to be used up in the year it's received. You can, like some grants, you have to use it up by a certain time. And with state aid, you can add to it every year, and there's no requirement that you use it up within the year that you've received it, which is nice.
Is there a requirement that you spend that minimum amount?
No,
Books
no.
and circulating materials every year?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the state aid.
That's
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's a requirement to expend, what it is 19% of the total amount that we're allocated. We're required to expend on circulating materials.
Lots of moving parts.
Yes.
What, Steve?
Said lots of moving parts.
Mhm.
All fit, and
Well, that 19% changes based on the size of your town. So last year, I think it was 19.5, and this year it was 19. Because our number of people in town is over 5,000.
How is your labor structured as far as, read somewhere you want 3 people on all times, all hours type thing?
Yeah, my aim is to have 3 people in the library building staffing at all times. We have a 17,000 square foot building and 2 service points. And so if somebody is needing to help a patron sort of off desk to help with, our computer or printer, help locate something in the stacks, we want to make sure we can still have somebody at the main service point, and then ideally an additional person or 2 downstairs.
Then the temporary part-time salaries, you bring people on as you need them?
Well,
Workloads and summers and stuff?
What we aim to do, we definitely increase their hours in the busy summer season when we increase our programming and we see increased foot traffic in the building. My aim is really to have a core cohort of folks with hours throughout the year to make sure that they're kind of kept abreast of all of the sort of policy changes, any sort of collection updates, and sort of the variety of other updates that we go throughout the year to make sure they're kind of in line with what we have going on and trained.
Steve, and one of the things I tried to do this year, it's on departmental comments on page 173. It's probably where you saw that 3-person staff. We try to disclose as much as we can without being overburdening a document here, but this kind of gives a level of the hours that they're open, number of hours per day. And that kind of drives the staffing need. And, could you do with less than 3? Perhaps, but you'd probably have to shut some, the downstairs off or, whatever.
Exactly.
So that's how we also derive the part-time need, by, we have, the full-time staff, we can kind of slot that in, but if, especially on the weekend hours, if you don't have your staff scheduled that, then you might need to add some part-time staff. So that kind of how we got to this little calculation over to the right here of what the part-time staff need was.
So is that the temporary seasonal salaries line? Because that's different.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's different.
that's
Means we're short.
So you're budgeting 41, but
Yeah.
41,000.
calculation is 47.
So maybe maybe Melanie is able to manage that and come in less, or maybe the friends help contribute, but we're trying to document these things so over time we can get to where we are fully funded where we need to be.
And also I have a question. We have replaced, Fran retired at the end of this past 2024, Fran McLaughlin. And she's been replaced by a new hire, Lee Dower. Will that cause the salary line to decrease because she's new?
It could, depends on the approach we take. If I need to cut the budget to accommodate other things that happen, then that would probably likely be one of the things we'd look at, to adjust the budget. If that person's a lower salary, then you would adjust the budget to the new current actual.
Right.
Historically, if we haven't had to do that, we haven't done that. And then that gives the department head, in this case Melanie, some flexibility to manage that overall salary line. So if she needs to bring in some more time for the part-timers, now she has some more flexibility to do that.
Give you some extra money.
And to the extent it needs to be adjusted, it would be adjusted in the following year when we do our salary projections for the following year. But I try not to get too cute in the middle of the budget season. There's too many moving parts, so something that's relatively nominal like that, hopefully our department head can manage that. But, if we're in a situation where we need to make a bunch of cuts to make everything bounce, then before we actually cut anything, we would adjust. If we have new positions in various departments, we'd look at that salary projection with the actual new people and get that to the actual first. Could go the other way too, if the police department, I think we had a fantastic hire with somebody with a lot of experience with a lateral transfer. That was more than the 75,000 per person that we had allocated for the 4 new officers, but still well worth it. So that's a case where Adam's going to have to manage that the opposite way, because he's going to have to manage overtime to accommodate the extra cost.
How was the $19 per hour for the floaters determined? And is that what we're paying this year as well as next year?
So that figure was determined based on information that I gathered of what similar positions are being paid in other
Libraries?
regional libraries around the Cape. Because that position is not in the Eastham Employee Association, what I've done is when it comes naturally time for the positions that are in the association to get their natural raise, I work with Lori Barr to give a raise to the part-timers as well. So that's how I've sort of managed that separately.
Globally, not just specific to the library. We keep what's called what we call a miscellaneous compensation schedule. So this is any part-time person not covered by an employment bargaining agreement or the personnel code. And so recreation's another one, have a lot, they're on the miscellaneous comp schedule. And usually we offer a range, say, you got the minimum wage, but say $16 to $19 is the range, and it's to the discretion of the department head to hire within that range with approval from the HR director. And that allows some flexibility that if you've got somebody that's returning, that's experienced, and you want to give them a little bit more than the person that you're just hiring, you're not pulling them both, $16. One can make $16, one can make $17, or whatever the range is. So it's not ad hoc by department, it's coordinated through our HR department in that miscellaneous comp schedule that I review with HR prior to each budget season.
Are there any questions from here or the Zoom folk?
One Zoomer has two questions. In terms of fiscal 24, the expenditures went from 135,000 operating expenses to 166,000. What was the cause of that increase? Is that technology?
This was a year that we really made big efforts to increase the books and unclassified materials line to increase the percentage that the town was covering versus the amount that the Friends would be required to cover towards that expenditure. So that represented really a large increase that year. That was the biggest increase.
Okay. And of your 6 employees, are you all in a bargaining unit?
There are 6 full-time employees, and yes, currently those full-time positions are members of the Eastham Employee Association. There's one part-time staff member who's 19 hours a week. She's also a member of the Eastham Employee Association.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Melanie.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, everybody. So we're going to onward march here to 3E, the Recreation Department, and we also, Rich sent out comment from, I'm assuming it's from Christine.
Right.
On the, let's see, on the Recreation Department, and it is in our book 176 to 181.
So Christine apologizes for not being able to be here, but she did do this nice write-up. And they cover a lot of ground in the rec department. They have an after-school program. That's run primarily through a revolving fund, so not part and parcel of this budget, other than a staff person that coordinates it. Excuse me. Club sports happen throughout the year, a summer program and the swim program, and then various community events and maintenance of Wiley Park and the Field of Dreams. I'm not going to go through this verbatim, but she did a good job kind of documenting what each of those things are, if you want to find out about them. Big part of their effort has to do with the beach program, selling of beach stickers, maintaining the beaches with the DPW, and hiring the seasonal staff, whether it be lifeguards or gate attendants. So a big part of their budget is seasonal staffing. And the selling that covers also sticker sellers as well. They have 3 full-time employees, 5 to 7, depending on the ratio of students for after-school program leaders. Those are paid through the revolving fund. Recreation club leaders in 34 to 40 seasonal staff. In the way back of your budget book, there is a salary projection. And I know it's hard to read, but again, if you read it on the electronic version, you can blow it up. There's a lot of
Oh, here.
detail as how do we calculate it. And it's based on each position, the number of sticker sellers we need, the number of lifeguards we need, the number of days they'll actually work in a season, and the hours per day to get a total hours. And based on that, and based on the salary range that I just described to you, that's how we calculate the amounts needed for that salary, seasonal salary. But it's largely the 3 full-time employees that are driving the day-to-day programs.
That 5.55 for FTEs on the seasonal staff is,
Well, if a full-time is 2,080, and you got people working part-time, but only for 3 months of the year, it's a amalgamation of all the hours. It's about 10,500 hours total of seasonal labor that we get.
I just was trying to reconcile how it jumped up from 190 to 221 with the same
Number of.
number.
Because we had it underfunded in prior years. Because we weren't getting the staff.
Swim program is back. I mean, there's some things that are back.
Have they had trouble getting lifeguards and swim instructors? I mean, everything I can remember last summer and even the summer before that. Everybody, it's not just Eastham, but everybody on the Cape was having trouble getting lifeguards, getting swim instructors. I think we couldn't even provide some of the programs that we wanted to provide because we couldn't find the instructors that we needed to provide them.
That's right.
And so Christine alludes to that in her memo of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And we can only offer these programs if we have the staff to offer them. So I would think it's very fair to say that the demand for the programs that she offers far outweighs our capacity to offer them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a lot of I don't know a lot, but we have disappointed people that can't participate that want to because we have limits on the classes and sessions. So additional staffing in this area, if you want to grow the program, would be one of the things that she would need. It's a busy department. So let me just give you a real quick run through. The salaries hasn't changed other than, as Peter alluded to, the full funding of the seasonal salaries. On the budget, the biggest change on the budget is, I was going to say that it was going to be the porta potties, but I'm conflating that with last year. That seems to have sorted out a little bit, but one of the things we did a little bit better job of, again, if we ever have to make reductions, I've been working with Christine to identify the exact locations and the exact days and number of porta potties and types of porta potties at each of these locations. So we have exactly what we need to bid for, or if we need to cut something, we can make a choice of, which location is not going to have one. So no change through there. Under communications, we are providing cell phones now. It's important for us to provide cell phones for seasonal staff, so that's a new add. And slight increases under printing for extra stickers and passes. I think really that's the big changes.
Where did I see it on here? The sticker for the seashore, which is a new one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with that. What's that?
So with the agreement that the select board signed with the park, it requires that Eastham residents have a seashore sticker. So they're free, but you have to pick them up when you pick up your beach sticker if you want to enter either one of the ocean beaches.
It's a round purple.
I never knew that.
It's
I was just
last
plugging it in there with my regulars.
Last year was the first year,
Mhm.
but if you don't have that sticker, you'll get ticketed.
And then at the bottom here, again, we're always trying to improve these budget documents. It's for any number of reasons. But these our programs do charge fees. Those fees go into the state authorized recreation revolving fund. And we average about in 24, 70,000, and in 25, we're anticipating about $70,000 of revenue. And last year we spent almost 53,000 out of that. So fees come in, they go into the fund, and that pays the costs of offering the program, whether it's referees, officials, things like that, some supplies.
So we don't have a Friends of Eastham Recreation.
No.
So we charge fees to parents and participants of all events. I mean, they're nominal to a degree, but they're still fees.
I'd like to know what it would cost to not charge people, not charge young children to go. I mean, the library does not charge.
$53,000.
Yeah, 53 to $70,000 a
Yeah,
year.
that's what I saw. But the library does not charge for any of its programs. The Council on Aging does not charge any Eastham residents for their programs. I know there's the thrift shop. I know there's a Friends of the Library. I'd like to see whether the town could provide the recreational department for the young children in town for free. It just seems to me that we should be able to do that. We want young families in town. We know they don't have a lot of money. We're providing free for adults for the other two venues I've just mentioned.
And I understand that. And if you want to add that to the budget, we certainly can do that. But it's also a different level of service when you have 50 children in one afternoon and they don't really even have a space for that. So we could take more than 50 children, but we don't have a physical space for it because it's at the elementary school.
I
We only
know,
have
I
one
know.
gym and one little cafeteria. So there is a greater need than just financial for this service. It's a childcare need that families have for the summer program and for that after-school program that we don't have the capacity to do, even if you gave us $70,000. Because we need more space and we need more, personnel.
I just feel that I don't know how to go about it or what the options are other than adding it to the budget, as you've just
You
mentioned.
have to either take something else away or,
Yeah.
Still have the numbers problem.
Mary,
Yeah.
it's Kate.
Kate?
One
Yeah.
thing that I was thinking about, having worked in another town, as you have articulately pointed out, the library and the Council on Aging have the Friends group that does the fundraising. We don't have that for the kids. So maybe a way to do it is to get a group of parents together and have them become the friends of the children's programs and have them fundraise.
the problem with that, Kate, is that the parents are busy with young children and full-time jobs.
I was about to
So
say that. That's
they're
a
just not-
big ask.
I mean, they do try to contribute, but I think time is their most precious resource, whereas,
Right.
the COA and the library, they rely on great senior volunteers, retired volunteers, which is what drives the town, really. I mean, we, for all our boards and committees, we rely on.
And I was about to say that, we seniors who are retired have more time on our hands than parents that are taking kids to soccer and band practice and a million and one other things. To Mary's point, if a household has 6 kids,
Well, we do have a scale that has a discount if you have more than one child. We do not refuse service as long as someone's making an effort with any kind of a payment plan. It is as affordable as we can make it. I mean, the summer program is ridiculously affordable for an 8-hour day, but.
Yeah. And I just want to plug Food for Kids.
Yeah, food, we couldn't, so that's one of the huge money saving and great programs we have is Food for Kids, which is, we give a little donation to under the Human Services budget. They provide all the meals for our summer program. So meals and snacks. So the rec department has to buy snacks for all the after school programs, but not for the summer program, which is a huge, great advantage for us.
And that comes out of I'm just plugging the Church of the Holy Spirit, and it's all volunteer done with drivers and everything else. It's quite extraordinary.
I've been a driver.
It's an
they do.
amazing program. It really is.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yep, it is amazing.
I had just a couple of things. I just want to wrap up the presentation on the page here, 181. The after-school program also has a separate revolving fund. budget, so to speak, of about 62,000 of money coming in, and we spent 50,000 out of that.
Yeah.
So again, that's the after-school program money kind of goes into the separate fund outside of the operating budget, and we use that money to pay for the operating costs, other than for the salary of our program coordinator.
Can that surplus, does that stay in the revolving fund?
Yes.
It does. That's good.
One of the things, I mean, Christine and I talk about it all the time, the people who can't afford to pay or people are in arrears with the payment plan, even though it's small. But I mean, we could have a formal scholarship program. We usually just do it on a case by case basis when, you know,
When you understand somebody's having
Yes.
a situation.
but we could start it in that sense, a formal scholarship kind of program like the Timothy Smith Fund has or whatever.
Mhm.
Well, this is all part of the possibilities of the Eastham Community Fund that we've been
Yep.
talking about. Right now, we don't have, Select Board hasn't adopted additional programs, but these are all potential things that could be adopted to be part of that.
Rich, do you look at departments' percentage cost compared to other towns? Are we under budgeted for this? Are we over budgeted for recreation? Are we comparable to other, other towns? Or is
Just
it,
on recreation,
yeah, just out of curiosity on something like this?
well, you have to take the after-school program out of it, because I don't know that other towns have an after-school program that's run by the town.
Okay.
If they have, it's probably run by the school.
So they're different enough. That's a
Different.
tough
There's different
comparison.
models.
So you kind of have to
Yeah.
know, have to make it apples to apples, but, I think our towns are pretty comparable. Wellfleet's got a director and an assistant director.
Yeah,
Orleans has actually probably been
the lowest.
deficient in the recreation, and they've been feeling it the last couple of years of some turmoil and hiring of new staff, and now they're probably equivalent to what we are.
And Brewster has a great program, but their after-school program is run by the schools too, so it's different.
And Truro also has an after-school program as well.
So no, we do, not all the time. Like I said at the beginning of our budget season, this is kind of a zero-based budget of what are the services we offer and what is it required to do that. And that's why all these pages are hopefully representing that those costs are. To the extent it's not comparable to another town, it's because the program services are different.
Differences, yeah.
Or level of service. When you get to a fire department, we're just a busier department than Truro. We need more. We have higher expectation of response time and coverage and stuff like that, right? So that's tough to do, but.
I have a couple questions on the annual playground inspection. Does that include the elementary school or is that separate?
It wouldn't include the elementary school. Elementary school has a whole separate
Their,
budget.
their budget would include
Mhm.
the annual. I know they've done it
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I've been in touch with Bill, but I didn't know whether this was covering that or
No.
it was under their budget. And the monies that we give to the Finch State Park, skate park, the 4,002, how is that? I know the Community Preservation Committee has given them money for upgrades this past year, actually. But I was 7,500, but I was wondering how we are assessed the 4,002. We're not the only town that uses it. Is it based on usage by Eastham versus other towns?
I don't believe so. I think they've asked us for a flat sum
Every year we just,
every year, but it hasn't changed. I don't think it's changed in a couple of years. I can't
it hasn't changed. It is down here for 4,002, but
And it's not that there's some in the rec department and some in another budget, and I can't remember.
No, I think
No.
it's all in the rec.
Okay. It used to be in human
And
services.
where's it come from? It's, is it that nonprofit group that provides all these and each of the towns contribute to that, the operation of, so monitors and things like
There's a
that?
nonprofit group that sort of runs it
Right.
and I think they're based in Orleans, because obviously the skate park is in Orleans.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. I mean, it's here for 4,002 for 2 years.
It used to be in the human services budget and we
Yeah, yeah.
moved it into Christine's budget
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it makes more sense to be.
Yeah,
there.
yeah, okay.
I have one statement and one question. I attended the Halloween and the tree lighting. Those were fantastic events.
Aren't they great?
And what I heard from a lot of people, in the sense I got from a lot of people, they really enjoyed seeing the kids.
Yes.
Because, and I've talked to other people about this, we pay for the schools in our budget. And we know it's a lot of money and it should be, it always is, but you don't get to see the kids.
Mhm.
So when you see the kids, because those are a lot of local kids, because it's
Yeah.
the off season, it's not summer, it's not, a
mhm.
lot of other events. It was all, mostly local kids. People really, it kind of put two and two together where people are like, all right, I get it. We do have a lot of kids and families in this town and they don't usually, I don't think they always
And
see
it's a
them.
real mood booster
It-
for me. I would not miss that Halloween on the green for any amount of money.
I
I
brought-
just love it.
It was great. I brought my dog in a costume.
know.
It was great.
How about yourself?
You know, but honestly, in a place where I think, Massachusetts is getting older, the Cape is getting older, the country's aging on. It's so great to see babies and
Mhm.
small children and they're all in costume. And of course you add the dogs and the pumpkin carving and all kinds of other stuff. It's really
The
fun.
parents playing, so it was really, so those are just like great, just PR, just awesome events, so. And I know there's others, I haven't been to all of them, I saw the list of all of them. This is a silly question and the answer better be no. All I hear about is pickleball getting banned. We don't get noise complaints on our pickleball courts, do we? They're
No, just the
perfectly
clerk's
located.
office.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did a good job with locating those courts.
Those were
yeah.
like genius, the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
location of those pickleball.
No, there's no ban of pickleball.
Because I just heard Nantucket wants to ban them by zoning because people are complaining about. the
Yeah,
noise.
and I
There's
think
been a
that's
lot of
in
people
residential
complaining.
neighborhoods, you do get people that get, I think our bylaw is 12 feet. Your pickleball court has to be 12 feet from the property line. But we're not banning anything, I know.
Those are great back there, so.
There's been
I
talk
said-
of trying
I
to
said
put them
they're
at
retinal
the,
complaints.
at some of the tennis courts at the high school.
Oh, yeah.
You can hear them?
No, I was just saying there's been talk about
Oh.
changing
Changing some of those.
went over from tennis to pickleball.
And
We have a
Patty, I
tennis
just
team.
wanted to say to you that if you guys have not been to the Light Up the Night Christmas kickoff, our holiday kickoff, this year Mrs. Claus made a guest appearance and the kids all sang. And I observed Eastham residents actually crying because they were so happy to see these children singing, and the concert was absolutely beautiful. So it really is. a
Talented
nice event.
children too.
Yes.
I think they were they Brewster Elementary or it was.
One
It
of
was-
them
it
was
was
Brewster and
Nauset
one of them was
Regional.
Nauset,
Nauset.
yeah.
Yeah,
They
it was
were
a
great.
great event.
And I got the same vibe talking to people there. They loved seeing, the older
Yeah.
people loved seeing the kids,
Yep.
so.
Yep. And who can miss the hot chocolate and the free cookies?
Jackie, just out of curiosity, how many people do we have on a wait list for the after-school program? How bad is that?
So what she usually does, every year it's dicey. So we usually accept like 60, 65 children
Mhm.
because there are 50 each day,
Mhm.
but not everyone does
Comes-
5 days a
right,
week. So everyone gets something, but not every
All
parent
week.
gets everything that they need. So it's like that. And then there are openings, someone will sign up for 4 days and then realize they only really want 3, and then there'll be an opening and they'll give that opening away. So we really do try to make sure that everybody gets what they need. It's
Mhm.
just, we could do more, but I don't know where you'd put more than 50 kids a day over at the elementary school. It's really, that's a lot of kids for it. And it's not kids like all second graders. It's kids from 5
Mhm.
all the
All
way
the way up.
through 5th grade.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a wide
Wide
age.
age range. Yeah.
So
So when
they do a great job.
when she says there's a wait list for that program, there's not kids that don't. that
I
are put
don't
on the wait
believe we
list that
have any
don't
kids
get-
right now that aren't getting anything,
Get something.
but there are people who don't get the number of days they want.
Somebody would like a week and they only get 3 days.
Or Tuesdays is full and they really
Mm.
wanted Tuesdays.
Mm.
Yeah.
So then they've got to figure out how to
Yeah.
deal with the
Yeah.
childcare.
You know how it works in the summer where she says they've got 100 children, but there's a wait list.
We do have a wait list, and what she tries to do is prioritize working families with children and then go from there, because we've had, I think, like a lot of the towns, a lot of grandparents have grandchildren for the summer and they'll
Mm.
want them to be in the the summer program, which is great, but we want, we definitely want the people who need the childcare to get it first.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of active prioritization in that one.
So it's too bad that we don't have another space bigger than
Yeah.
than the gym, I guess, that's,
Well, what they need is like the elementary school works because you have the smaller
Yeah.
classrooms and then they can move
And-
to
and you
one
have the-
activities in the cafeteria
and
and
the
activities in
playground.
the gym and the playground. So it works because you're revolving five or six groups of kids.
Mhm.
So that's the kind of space you need.
Frustrating.
And then there's transportation, like if we move the venue, then you have
Oh,
a
yeah,
transportation issue.
Yeah, and obviously after school, the children are already there.
Yeah, they're already there. It's
They're already
easy.
there. Yeah,
to
a
have them
mother or father
stay.
doesn't have to pick the child up and take them someplace else.
Right.
Or we'd have to, if we found another place, we would have to have a bus to move them
Yes.
from this elementary school to wherever they were going.
And the summer program, we do move kids around from this field to high
Yeah,
school
for,
to,
for a program.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, I'll just say once more, I'd really like to figure out how to provide more of those types of programs for free. Is there any other comment, question?
What's the collection rate on the 500 parking tickets?
Oh, yes,
Oh,
I
it's-
saw that.
great, because they don't get to register their car or get a license if they don't pay their parking.
They might not
tickets.
pay it, but then they gotta renew the registration.
The
and they'll-
next year they do,
Catch up with them.
yeah.
500.
Mm.
Do we
Substantial.
still use Plymouth County for that?
No, yes, yeah.
No.
But I know how good our signage and our collection is. The years that we've moved off of having people at the beach shacks to monitor stickers, right? When you have that, you have many less parking issues than when you don't. So, I think it's kind of a little bit of a failure when the parking mess when people get a lot of tickets, it means that they're illegally parking without, they're not reading the signs, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And if we were monitoring that better, but I think Christine has a great system because she has a revolving person every day in the summer that just goes from beach to check stickers. So it works. But, again, there are more people, more cars, more dogs, more users of every resource that we have now than there were before. And I think it's just, that causes conflicts. We simply don't have enough parking for beaches anywhere.
When you asked about the parking tickets, Peter, what do we charge per parking ticket?
$50.
$50, so 50
Oh,
times.
unless it's a handicap space, and then I
Oh,
think that's
mm.
much more.
So $50 times 500.
And every parking ticket is accompanied by a photograph of the car and the violation.
Mm.
So the town clerk gets the picture and the ticket.
And do we get the money?
We get the money.
That's grand.
But it's so much of a hassle. I really would rather have people just follow the rules. Would be so much easier than, all this.
Yeah, at one point, we've talked about using our car license plate
Yeah.
for not just the beach, but for the transfer station. And there was some question about the cost of implementing that. Has there been any more discussion on that, or?
Sometimes, I think the plate reader technology seems to work for a lot of places.
I mean, they have the Easy Pass for
Yeah,
the
but I
highway.
think at the beaches too, if we had credit card machines at the beaches, it's a very sensitive technology to be out in weather, like 90-degree heat. And if you've been in one of those little booths, they're not exactly air conditioned. So we've got, it's gonna be damp, so I don't know. The towns that have tried to do credit cards at the beaches I know Dennis did when I was there, and it was sort of mostly successful. But they had issues. There was always some machine that was down or,
But no, but I do think that will be in our future.
yes.
Just a matter of timing and what does it replace? Just more efficient system
Oh,
and
yes, yeah. I mean, you don't have the stickers, you don't have the mailing, you don't have the people giving it out. You don't have people going to the DPW to
We
get
have a
them.
lot of beaches, Mary.
Yeah.
All the little beaches, all the
Mm.
bay beaches.
Mm,
So
yeah, I just. Anyway,
On the bottle and can recycling, she said they do it 4 months a year. Who does it the rest of the year?
I want to say it's the school. School used to be like the Boy Scouts. It's another human service
Another,
agency.
Yeah.
Nonprofit.
Yeah. PTA did it for a while. It's a rough job.
I always thought that all of it went to the rec all year round, but not anymore, maybe in the past.
No, they've always done it like quarterly. It was like 4 months at a time or something.
We're moving on to veterans.
page 182 in your book.
So this one's an easy one. We're required by law to have a veterans agent. We don't. Luckily on Cape Cod, we've got one of the oldest veterans district. So every town, Cape Cod, and I think Wareham, belongs to the District Department of Veterans Services. It's run by retired Marine Major Greg Quilty and his staff. They do an amazing job of helping our veterans across Cape Cod. And so they have a really good program. I'm very impressed. Occasionally he'll come out and do presentations, so maybe at some point I'll have him come in and talk to you folks about it. I think you'd be impressed with what they do. But it costs us money to belong to that. You know, the option is to have our own veteran services agent as our own employee, and it's just not cost effective. So belonging to the Vets District, it costs us $28,000 a year. We get an assessment along with all the other towns to cover their budget. It gets approved by the Cape Cod Town Managers Group. He presents it to us every year, and we provide any input, but generally it's a very basic bare bones budget. The other thing we have to provide for is veterans benefits. And in this case, you'll see that under actual for FY24, it's 0. We have no veterans in town that need, or I shouldn't say that we don't. None of the veterans in town have applied for benefits. There may be some that are, are deserving of them. And I actually spoke to Major Quilty last week at the MMA conference, and he wants to do some outreach for the Outer Cape. So, but in any event, I did reduce our veterans benefit by just $5,000, but we do need to provide for something in the event that we start have veterans taking advantage of what they deserve with the VA benefits. Historically, we've been spending $25,000. And so that's that. And now I'm going to share the
Human Services.
Human Services page.
Did they send it to you yet?
I don't think so.
No.
So this looks a little incomplete.
So I just heard from Kate Berg. So the Human Services Committee has completed their voting and allocations, but I haven't sat with them to go over it yet. So this is just, a placeholder at this point. The monies will move around.
So the bottom line is it's level funded.
Yep.
But what we're expecting is to put the social worker contract from a couple of years ago back to the 40,000. Family support package is still the 490,500.
And where did you put the behavioral health and nurse? Is that in here now?
That would be the 40,000.
Okay.
And the balance is isn't all going to Homeless Prevention Council. That's just where I put it. Will be allocated
Yeah,
amongst
that's
all
it.
these.
I was
So
wondering, when I looked at it, I'm saying, okay, we've got the family support package for 490 and the homeless for the rest of it and
So,
nothing to anybody else. So
so I'll have
it's just
to-
a holding.
I'll have to give you an update once we review what
Yeah,
the
yeah,
committee came up with.
And they do a great job. They interview all the agencies every year.
yeah,
Do a good
yeah.
job.
I have some friends on the committee.
So the hope or the anticipation is that whatever that allocation results will not exceed what it was last year in total.
So the bottom line is the same as fiscal year 25.
Should be, yes.
How do you arrive at that number every year?
What number?
Well, in this case, 663.
Well, we have history of
Mm.
what we've provided to these organizations. And generally, we spend what we say we're going to,
Mhm.
you know, because they, you know, whether it's the family pantry, if we tell them we're going to give them $2,000, they give us quarterly reports indicating they've serviced these 10 families, and we give them the $2,000, and that's pretty much the case for everybody. So whatever we budget here is being spent and utilized.
And then what happens sometimes is either an agency makes a great case that they need more, or we add a service like, the social work position or some extra behavioral health for Outer Cape Health or whatever. There's been situations where they've presented us with something that,
A
that we
greater need,
need.
a greater need.
and so we allocate more funds to it or we
Mhm.
reallocate funds away from other programs. And some just simply don't apply.
Mhm.
It's odd. This year we had quite a few agencies that didn't meet the deadline. And even after Kayla sent, emails saying,
Mhm.
we'll still
Deadline.
accept your application, they didn't apply. So
So if that's the case and you set the amount, do you add money to another one?
yes,
Yeah.
they just reallocate.
Reallocate the final bottom line?
I think with the number of organizations that we, well, I'm going to say support, but that's not the right word, but the number of, I think there is definitely no doubt that the need is there amongst all, some might have more or less in any given year, but there's no doubt that's there, and we could do more, but, we ask where we start. Well, in a tight budget year, and this is probably not an area we're going up. We have to take care of the core services and our own staffing first. So.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions on the human services expense? And when would we be getting that final number?
Within the
Or
next
allocation,
couple
I
of
should say.
weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the folks here or on the Zoom folk? Okay, I think that we have done that. I'm looking at the agenda. Is there any new business that anybody needs to bring up? Old business, capital project committee, dispatch, and school study updates, and the Nauset Public School Regional Agreement, draft agreement. And I know for C, Peter, you're going to be involved with the working of the agreement with Jackie and with Jerry? Is it Jerry from the select board?
Yep.
Jackie? Yeah.
Yes.
And you're trying to get things straightened out with over a 3-month period type of thing? What happens to the dispatch? I know we weren't able to get the towns to go along with that option. There was quite a bit of grant money associated with that. If we were to put it in place, what's happening with that grant money?
We didn't take it.
We didn't, okay.
Don't.
That was a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
Well, it's for design, so
I'm sorry?
it was for design.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying it was.
There's nothing to design.
There's nothing to design right now.
Nothing to design. I'd just like to think that we can somehow or other do a better job of regionalizing our operations here in
And we
order
have
to
not-
survive.
We have not stopped trying with
Yeah, yeah.
dispatch. It will happen. It's
Mm.
just maybe not happen in that particular way.
Mhm.
But Adam will be here, right? He's coming soon. He'll talk to
Yeah.
you about it.
And I'll just say that there is a budget workshop at the high school tomorrow night on the school budgets. Peter and I are attending, and I think the two of you are attending. So we'll see what that brings. Is there any other comment on the capital projects committee?
You went over it
Anything?
last week, I think. No news.
No news.
Anything new on that? So unless there's somebody that has something on, under number 5, old business, I'm going to the 6, town manager. Is there?
I have no big updates since
No.
last week.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing's happened this week?
It's only Wednesday and
Was there much comment that you received in regards to the decision to change the vote on the RTE? There were quite a few articles in the Provincetown Independent on it.
oh, yes. That we'll be continuing to have that discussion for a while.
Yeah.
The part-time residents are meeting on the 5th, so.
The
next
5th
week.
of February?
Yep, so I'm sure that will be a topic in their meeting as well.
Mhm. I saw a letter from Tom McNamara. Yep.
Any time frame on when the select board is gonna decide on the
Percentage?
percentage?
By March 1st,
March 1st.
the target, yeah. We were just talking about that today. We have to put it on.
Okay. Anything else that we haven't talked about, or anybody have anything that they'd like to bring up at this time? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
There's one.
Ron? Do I have a second?
You got a second from Zoom.
Oh, I'll say Patty. I saw Patty first. Any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't see.
One of the things that's happening, Mary, is
Hey.
if any of us turns off our camera and we try to turn it back on, the system administrator is trying to keep us from, I guess, trying to prevent Zoom bombing, so we can't come back in.
Right. So Mary, this is Paul. I have the same problem Kate does. So
Okay.
I vote in favor of the adjournment.
Me too. Me too. And
I'm
if we
going to
could
accept.
keep-
I'm going to accept Paul's acceptance to adjourn. I'll accept Kate, and I'll accept Roy. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0.
And
I
Jerry
have-
also is there too.
I have 640. 640.
6:45.